we go. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode, the All Dolphins Podcast. On this Monday, February 24th, I am coming live from Miami Lakes. Actually, not live because we're taping this. But I'm in
It's
Miami
live
Lakes.
now.
I'm in Miami Lakes, Florida for the time being before I head out to Indianapolis for the Scouting Combine. Good buddy Chris Perk, South Florida Sun Sentinel, is taking some days off in Texas, visiting some family, while your colleague David Furones is going to be in Indianapolis for the Combine. How are you, Park? Doesn't mean that you can't talk a little Dolphins football even if you're on vacation. Is that right, Park?
Yeah, and actually, it's not vacation. I'm just taking some time. My brother was here from England, so it's a working vacation, really. I worked today, filed a column today, and did a story on the late Dolphins running back Eddie Hill, who passed away yesterday. So it's a working trip.
Okay. The man never stops. And same here. I've actually done podcasts while visiting my family in Canada. So the work never stops when you're a Dolphins beat writer. And so it is, as Perk mentioned, unfortunately, the Dolphins announced today on social media the passing of former running back Eddie Hill. Played 6 years in the NFL, and get this, Perk went to the Super Bowl 3 times. You talk about having a fortunate career for a guy who was mostly a backup in his career. Did some work on special teams for the Dolphins on the 82 and 84 Super Bowl teams. Passed away at the age of 67. So RIP Eddie Hill. Dolphins Cancer Challenge was this weekend. As always, great turnout, great cause, raising a lot of money for cancer research. So a hat tip to the Dolphins for this absolutely wonderful annual event. And Tyreek was in the news again this week. And as my lead to the story on Saturday morning, I think it was, I wrote it, was almost made it a full week without not being in the news. And then he shows up on an Instagram reel with a big wrap around his left hand. And I'm going to admit, Perky, maybe you're better than I am at this. I'm going to admit ignorance as far as how Instagram reels work. But 5 hours later, there was a picture of him with 2 kids. It appeared to be at Adventure Mall, and there was nothing on his left hand. I don't know if there was an earlier picture that he just put up at that time, but I looked very carefully at that picture, at the video, the Instagram reel. It's a big, big wrap bandage. I did not detect a cast where I could say for 100% sure there was a cast there.
I'm choosing to believe that Tyreek had wrist surgery and healed in 5 hours. Completely healed. Doesn't need a bandage, no rehab, no nothing. The man is a miracle worker. His body just heals like that. That's what I'm going to tell myself, Poop.
Yeah, and we're talking, this is the guy right here who asked Dolphin assistant coaches whether the wrist injury throughout the season was a trolling job or whether it was real. So I would not have expected any other answer. But here's the thing. And even if he had surgery and all that, and he was not trolling, look, I'm doing like a video right now. You don't see me going like this to show my right hand. It's correct. Almost like he was doing it on purpose for folks to see. He had this big bandage on his arm or around his hand. It's just weird. And I keep writing and keep saying it. I don't see how it makes any sense to trade him. And yet you see national media keep speculating the Dolphins are going to trade him. It's a never-ending story. I don't know how it's going to end with the speculation ending.
I think with Tyreek, he's just a target. He's a guy, well, not a target. He's a person who feeds into that and likes for that kind of speculation to be out there. So he could put an end to it, and he chooses not to. He likes being in the news. He likes the speculation. So he clearly plays along with it, right? He plays into it with the bandage on the left hand. It's time for me to go, coach. It's what was the Rashee Rice woke up to trade rumors, exciting or
yeah.
And that's just the season, right? That's just the season. That's right, exactly. So look, Tyreek is a lot of fun. Tyreek is a lot of frustration, but that's life with Tyreek, right?
Yeah, and here's the thing too: is if you were to ask the Dolphins, and Mike McDaniel's going to speak at the Combine on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Dolphins are not going to categorically say we're not trading him. He's going to be on our roster in 2025.
Yes,
because they shouldn't, regardless. Because this idea of guys who are untouchable, not tradable, is BS unless it's Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, because any offer could convince you to trade anybody. So this is why teams will shy away from saying, no, we're not trading him. And shopping him is not the same as being willing to listen to offers. So you can get caught up in semantics. So
right.
This is this story, this cloud hanging over. And then when national media is doing stories predicting what's going to happen in the offseason, Tyreek, based on who he is, based on his salary, the season he had last year, the I'm out bro comments after the Jets game, he's always an easy guy to point to. It was at NFL.com last week, did a story on guys who should be traded and included Tyreek Hill. And then you see other ones where Tyreek Hill's probably going to be traded. And again, I'm going to go back to it doesn't make the Dolphins any better unless they have reached a point where we've had enough with this guy. Let's get rid of him.
Yeah, the Dolphins are definitely a better team with Tyreek than without Tyreek. They are not prepared.
Berg, don't say it though. You're not allowed to say it today.
I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. They're not prepared for life without Tyreek, though. It would be one thing if they had drafted somebody or signed somebody who could be the heir apparent, the successor. Jalen Waddle is not that guy. Malik Washington isn't close to being that guy. They need Tyreek. And so he's going to stay. I'm 100% sure that Tyreek will be there on opening day, and he should be there on opening day. But until then, Tyreek is probably going to enjoy the trade speculation and things like that. Although he has, let's face it, since the Super Bowl, he has, when he went on the apology tour, he hasn't fed into the trade, I'm not going to be here stuff. Now it's, did I have wrist surgery? And we're on to the next thing. Tyreek, there's no grass growing under that man's feet. So Noah Lyles is in the past. The trade stuff is in the past. Now it's, did he have wrist surgery?
You forget about I'm going to erase Noah Lyles. You forgot about that one too.
No, I said Noah Lyles. That's in the past. That's now. Yeah, because it'll come back. It'll come back. Yeah. But for now, it's, did I have wrist surgery?
Okay. And by the way, just to make it set the record clear here for the viewers and listeners on the podcast, on the audio podcast, there's a part of us that's kind of tired of talking about Tyreek and all the off the field stuff. But again, he is the most. If he's not the most important player, well, not because of the position he plays, Tua is the most important.
Most interesting.
Well, yeah, and the best player on the team. So if there's stuff going on with him, we have to mention it. Okay, let's move on to a different topic. Patrick Paul and the offensive tackle dilemma. Patrick Paul told reporters at the Dolphin Cancer Challenge on Saturday he's shooting for the starting job in year 2, which is exactly what you want from your player, from any player on the roster. You don't want – there was a former Dolphin quarterback who kind of had told us perfectly content with being a backup. A.J. Feely, by the way. Sorry if I'm breaking confidence.
I didn't pick up on that one.
Yeah, it was making news. Yeah, he made the point that it was clearly comfortable being a backup quarterback. That right there is not a good sign. So kudos for that. And especially he's a second-round pick from last year. The Dolphins are not in a position to use draft picks on guys who are not playing big roles 2 or 3 years down the line. Now, having said that, Dolphins have Austin Jackson coming off what was a good year until it was interrupted by the knee injury, coming back at right tackle a year after you gave him a contract extension, and Terron Armstead at left tackle, who is still, according based on who you want to believe, one of your best players in Pro Football Focus, or whatever you think of them, had them as their best player in 2024. So what gives?
I don't know. And I wrote the column about Terron, and I don't know what the Dolphins should do right now. If Terron wants to come back, it would be great for the Dolphins for the on-field product, the locker room product, the culture product, for everything. Terron is great. But physically, we know how that knee was the last, 4 games or whatever. I mean, there were times where he's hopping on his left leg to keep any weight off of the right leg. And in the locker room after the finale, he told us, soon enough, you'll see what the deal was with the right knee. and that sounds like it needs a repair job in the form of surgery in the off season. Terron is 33. These surgeries are, NFL, it'll help him walk better, but it's not going to help him play 17 games plus a playoff game. These surgeries are at this point, I don't want to say that they're counterproductive, but they cut into his overall well-being as far as being an NFL player, an every down NFL player. I don't know. This is one of the few times you will hear me say I don't know, because boy, you want to run back, but you want to take a look at Patrick Paul. And here's the problem with this group is that you don't want to move to run Austin Jackson or Patrick Paul to guard. And I don't know if you can. If one of them could move to guard, then it's just a shell game. Who goes where? I don't think any of them are going to be guards. Last year, they were reluctant to move Patrick Paul to guard. He cross-trained left tackle, right tackle, but not guard. So I would think the sentiment is going to be the same this year. So I don't know what you do about Terron. I still don't, even days from the combine, I still don't know what you do about Terron Armstead.
Yeah, it's a conundrum, dilemma, quagmire, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because he also carries a high cap number.
Yeah.
And he played 15
Which
games.
they'll negotiate down, you figure, if he comes back.
Well, no, correct. Correct. But even then, it's like you want him on the roster because he was your best offensive lineman.
Yep.
Understanding that chances are it's more likely than not that he's not going to play every single solitary game. But then you have the issue of stopping the progress of Patrick Paul because he's not going to get better sitting on the bench. And forget Patrick Paul. Even he said it in this conversation with reporters yesterday, the idea of him moving to guard. He's a tackle.
Right.
There's a reason there's not – I don't know if there's any 6'8" guards in the NFL. I think that your tallest might be 6'6". There's an issue. Leverage becomes an issue there. Terron Armstead's been a left tackle his entire NFL career and probably going back to Arkansas Pine Bluff as well. So that idea doesn't make sense. Austin Jackson now does have experience at guard in the NFL with the Dolphins, which came in 2021 after he started left tackle and really struggled, and then they switched him with Liam Eichenberg, if you recall. The problem with that is this is a guy whose career has been on the ascent. Do you want to take the chance of moving back to guard where you have no guarantee that the ascent's going to continue? And number one, this is a guy you've also invested money in because you gave him a contract extension. It seems like an easy solution, but I don't know that it's. And to me, I still see Austin Jackson's skill set as better suited for right tackle than it would be for guard.
Definitely, 100%. And look, he's gotten adept at protecting to his blind side also. So I would, I can't move any of the three of them. Among Terron and Patrick Paul and Austin Jackson, they're all tackles. And so there's only two tackles that can play, and it creates a big log jam. If Terron wasn't so good and so valuable, culture, locker room, on the field, then it would be an easy decision. You go with the youth. But this guy is so good for your franchise. He's your best offensive lineman. He's your anchor. He's one of your best players. But he's not going to be there for 17 games, which is also fine. If you knew and could guarantee he's going to be there in November, December, January, then it's a no-brainer. But obviously, you can't do that. That's last year when he was at his worst physically after all those snaps started to accumulate. And that's the issue is that, okay, if you could only get 12 games out of Terron and you could pick the 12, okay, then we're going to include like the last 8 in that, right? But life doesn't work that way. The NFL doesn't work that way. So it's a huge, huge problem for the Dolphins.
And which brings me to, if we were to consider another option that we haven't mentioned, is can you trade one of them? Well, for the reasons you just mentioned, the fact that his age and the fact that, unfortunately, you can't totally rely on him to be there down at crunch time, Terron wouldn't be very easy to trade considering his salary for 2025 right now is for $13.3 million. That makes him difficult to trade. You would not want to trade Patrick Paul in any way, shape, or form because right now he's cheap, and these are the type of players the Dolphins need because he's on his rookie contract. So am I looking at Austin Jackson? Uh, he got $5 million guaranteed in salary. He's got 10.8 million in base salary. But you're looking at a guy who's coming off a season-ending injury in the middle of last season. What would his trade value be? And he's a guy also who's 26 years old. It's not necessarily great. And the weird part about it too, the most mind-blowing part about it to me is here are the Dolphins. They have needs everywhere on the roster, and they got this one spot. You could make the argument where if everybody comes back healthy, they could be in the same boat at the edge defender position with Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, except you have and then you have two major injury question marks there with a guy who could be a post-June 1 cut. But it's just very weird the place the Dolphins roster has found itself in with those situations. Let's move on to the combine. Anything in particular you're looking for? Any prospect intrigues you? Any question that you want to see some sort of answer to as we head into this week in Indianapolis?
Not necessarily. Here's what I know, that they should not find their backup quarterback in Indianapolis. Their backup quarterback should be a free agent. Everything else that they need, yeah, you can find them in Indianapolis. You need two guard starters. I think one should come through free agency, one should come from the draft. You need two safety starters. I think one should come from free agency, one from the draft. I don't know about inside linebacker, interior, or defensive tackle, cornerback. That could come draft or free agency. But you need to go to Indy probably with the idea that, if we have 10 picks, we probably need to get three starters with fingers crossed, but two starters and a major contributor. And, the major contributor could be a rotational defensive player, or a, rotational edge rusher, or a situational linebacker, or something along those lines, but a contributor. Maybe a tight end who can, the combination in line and receiving tight end, whatever, a slot receiver who rotates with whoever, with Malik Washington. Somebody's got to be a contributor, and you need to get two starters. So if I'm the Dolphins, that's my attitude going into the combine. And look, we know the combine, to repeat this to our viewers, one of the major benefits is your doctors get to put their hands on the players, and you get extended interviews, a lot of interviews. You had interviews at the Senior Bowl, but this is a better field of players. So, the 40 time and all, and the bench press, that's all great. But to me, it's the medical and the interviews at the combine. That's the true value. So if I'm the Dolphins, those are the things I'm placing a lot of value on, that face-to-face and the medical. And then, from Senior Bowl, or I'll see him at the pro day, and I'll see his physical stuff then. But that's my mentality if I'm the Dolphins: interview, doctor's hands on the players.
Absolutely. And if you talk to like any NFL personnel, that's always what they tell you. To me, another thing, and maybe this is my old school mentality, I like guys who participate in the on-field stuff. For example, quarterbacks throwing. And I get it that you've had 4 years of tape, on me. You can look at that. You don't need to see me throw for a day at Lucas Oil Stadium. But to me, it screams I'm a gamer. If like, yeah, bring it on. I'll throw anytime, any place. And if you don't, it kind of a little bit to me screams draft day reference, Bo Callahan a little bit.
I'll tell you that's interesting, Poop. It seems to me that things have changed. That is kind of our old man mentality. Christian McCaffrey kind of set a standard, right, with bowl games. I'm not playing. I'm too high a draft pick. And even before that, we had seen a lot of players, quarterbacks in particular, I'm not throwing in Indy. I'll wait till my pro day where I'm more comfortable. I'm in my facility. I'm throwing to my receivers, and I'm not going to put myself at that disadvantage because I don't have to. If you're a second round interior offensive lineman, you better do that bench press. You better run the 40. But kind of the quarterback, receiver, running back, you can, maybe some edge rushers. I don't know who else skips routinely in Indy, but it's the quarterbacks in particular. It's just gotten to that point where, and look, Cam Ward not playing the second half of the bowl game. I think teams kind of look at it as, yeah, these guys are high dollar investments. These guys want to have everything in their favor. We're not going to penalize that anymore. Because I would have thought if you missed the bowl game, you're not a gamer. If you're not going to work out, you're supposed to compete. You're not a gamer. But it's kind of, I'm going to preserve myself. I'm I'm a corporation, a single corporation. I'm going to maximize my opportunity in the 6, 7, 4 years that I can. I agree with you, Poop, but we're the old men.
Speak for yourself, all right, pal. No, I have a bigger issue. For example, like running the 40 or quarterback throwing. Because unless barring like an insanely unlucky event, what's going to happen? The skipping the bowl game. I understand it. There's two ways to look at it. Is number one, if I'm a marginal player who's got no NFL future whatsoever, and we've busted our asses the entire year, and my teammate superstar is going to be a first round pick, that's like, well, no, I'm not bothering with that. I would not be a happy camper. On the other hand, I'm also smart enough to understand, dude's got a lot of money writing, and I always go back to, probably this is before your time, a great former University of Miami running back who was going to be probably a first-round pick, who lost a crap load of money because he blew out his knee. Actually, there were two of them. One was able to still be a first-round pick. That was Lewis McGee. Long before then, Melvin Bratton, when the University of Miami won the national championship at the Orange Bowl in the 1987 season. Again, it was a great night for UM. They won the national championship. It was absolutely awesome. Great. That dude lost a crap load of money and basically lost his NFL career because he was never the same guy after that. So from that standpoint, I get it. News coming on Monday. There's another ban. Apparently the Green Bay Packers supposedly are the team that is pushing, pun intended, to get rid of the tush push. Personally, I despise the play. It's boring. It's like if I want to watch rugby, I'll go put on the BBC or wherever it's televised, because this idea of a scrum and everybody pushing. Ball carrier should move on his own, not getting help from even like 7 yards down the field at the end of a run. I can't stand it when you see the offensive lineman coming from behind and pushing him in the back.
Right.
I
love the tush push. I think it's brilliant.
You would.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. And until you can stop it, screw you. Deal with it. I don't like the 7 yards down the field, the running back gains 4 more yards or 6 more yards because there's 6 teammates shoving him down the field. And inevitably the announcer will go, look at that leg drive. It's like the dude's feet aren't even on the ground. What are you talking about? We're carrying him.
He's on Bourbon Street. He's on Bourbon Street on Mardi Gras.
That's right. Exactly. No, I don't like the idea of outlawing the tush push. Figure out a way to stop it.
Hold on, Perk. But here's the thing. How is it that it's okay for you to have somebody push his teammate in the back if it's at the snap as opposed to 7 yards downfield at the end of a run? Why is one okay?
Because I think the tush push part of it's but to me it's 3 parts. It's the offensive line, it's Jalen Hurts, and it's the tush push, the actual tush push. And I think that they're pretty equal, all 3. So 2/3 of it are pretty legit. That last third is the one that you could question, but 2/3 of it are legit, as opposed to the running back who's getting shoved by his offensive lineman. His leg drive has stopped. That's their horsepower. I think it's different from that standpoint, that the offensive line is working and Jalen Hurts is working. Now the tush push kind of finishes the job, as opposed to the offensive linemen downfield who are doing all the work for the running back.
Okay. Uh,
You
I'm like,
don't buy that.
no, I don't like either one. To me, whoever has the ball should be gaining yards on his own, not because somebody's pushing. Uh, are we both agreed we like this idea of either moving the touchback from the 30 to the 35 or moving the kickoff from the 30 to 35, but moving the kickoff back 5 yards from where the ball is kicked? We both in agreement. We both like that.
I think so. Boy, it's just hard to do anything aside from the original kickoff that gives you satisfactory action, right? Eventually, you might just have to do away with the kickoff and just start a drive at the 20-yard line, because just from what we're used to what we're seeing now, it leaves you feeling so empty, and you have to keep tweaking the yards, and you have the landing zone and the this and the that, and it takes some getting used to, but I think my patience is already worn thin with it. We after like maybe 3 years of tweaks and gadgetry and trying the kickoff, if we're still not satisfied, I might be one of the people to say just start us at the 20 and forget the kickoff. It's you guys want to keep your statistics of concussions down so you don't have to pay this lawsuit. Let's just start it at the 20.
I'd say to me, let's give it a shot for kicking off from 5 yards further back. So maybe there won't be as many touchbacks. We have seen mock drafts are all over the place, and I mean all over the place. I have seen mock to the Dolphins in the first round. Wide receiver today was a new one, Luther Burden from Missouri.
Yeah,
We've seen
that makes sense
cornerback.
to me actually.
Oh, hold on. Cornerback. Okay, cornerback. I've seen safety. I have seen obviously in offensive linemen. I have. I don't think I've seen a defensive lineman yet. So, to you, all things being equal in terms of the ability and the potential of the prospect, NFL readiness, and all that, what's your position of choice?
Uh, Boy, if Ashton Genty is there, I want running back. I want
I know.
him, not the position. I want Ashton Genty. But aside from that, I could go a few different ways. It depends on what you do in free agency. I would probably say cornerback. If a guy like Will Johnson is there, the kid from Texas keeps moving up. I see. Safety if Malachi Starks is there. Look, I'm not opposed to Tyler Booker or a good interior offensive lineman. You know, Quentin Nelson is a difference maker, right? He's not scoring touchdowns, but he's a difference maker. You don't know if you have a Quentin Nelson, obviously. So that's kind of if you get let's say if we're going by letter grades, A guard, that's great. If you get a C guard, if you get a cornerback, that's great. If you get a C cornerback, okay, you dealt with C cornerbacks in the past. You can survive. That's kind of how I look at it. I would rather have an average player at an impact position than an average player at a non-impact position. Is basically what I'm saying. Yeah, I
Except
really.
you can hide a C guard a lot more than you can hide a C cornerback. No?
You can, but my thinking is if you can't get the C cornerback, then what? You're going to play a C minus quarterback, and that's kind of how I'm looking at it. That the you do the best that you can there, and I would rather do the best that I can at an impact position than a non-impact position. If that, I mean, that's the no bleak statement of the year, isn't it? But again, I would rather have if I have to go down a letter grade, go from C to C minus, I would rather do it at guard, a non-impact position, than at cornerback, an impact position.
Correct. But yeah, again, the premise of the question was based on prospects being of fairly equal value. Because to me, then we get into positional value where.
Yeah.
To me, for the Dolphins, I would think, and again, obviously, it depends where they're going to sign in free agency. And by all accounts, it's not a great free agent market, and
Right.
some of the good players are going to be outpriced for the Dolphins, like T. Higgins, if they wanted to get him,
Right.
that size at wide receiver, they're not going to be able to afford him. Trey Smith at guard, they're not going to be able to afford him.
Right.
A couple of the cornerbacks, Ward from San Francisco, my guess going to be too pricey for the Dolphins.
Yep.
Byron Murphy too from Minnesota, probably going to be too pricey for the Dolphins. So, all things being equal for me in terms of the prospect would be, I think cornerback right now would be one. Defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, particularly if that guy has pass rushing ability, which is now to me a major commodity. And I think interior offensive lineman actually would be a little bit down the line. And I am going to admit and do a bad Allen here, because I think my thinking has changed because I got influenced too much by what the Eagles did. It was like beef. But now I kind of think about it. I think you should be able to manage with guards, either good veterans, Kevin Zeitler maybe, and then second or third round pick as opposed to your first round pick at guard. We're going to wrap it up with a reminder. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Still 14-8. I know the number's not moving. It's breaking my heart. It's not doing it. It's doing this. Hold on, we go, but slashing it. Okay, that's what it's doing. So please encourage your friends, your family, everybody to subscribe. But I wanted to end on this note. Little Dolphin fun fact: 2 former Dolphins of some notoriety is the right word, but Lynn Bowden Jr., Kalen Ballage, both of them are UFL rosters. Coming to you March 28th is their 2025 league kickoff. So be on the lookout for that. And Kalen Ballage is one of those prospects who could be a little deceiving. One scored 8 touchdowns at Arizona State, big back with some speed. Didn't quite pan out in the NFL. Lynn Bowden was this multi-talented, multi-dimensional player from Kentucky who the Dolphins got in a trade even before the start of his rookie season, because the Raiders were like, we don't like what we're seeing. And the dude actually showed potential as a rookie for the Dolphins in 2020, but hasn't been able to keep it going, and now he's trying to keep his career alive. So he is Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Perk had a good column today about one of the keys to the Dolphins' success. Yeah, I'm trying to do a tease and not give away everything. So check it out, sunsentinel.com. And after I leave here, it's going to be pretty soon before I head to the airport on my way to Indianapolis, where I will be for the next podcast. One will be coming tomorrow. We'll be talking about what Mike McDaniel has to say. Until then, everyone, thanks for watching and have a great rest of the day. Bert?